The car rolled slow through South LA with headlights low and tension rising while the crew whispered about a figure posted near the corner. The air felt heavy while fingers tightened on triggers as someone pointed and muttered that familiar warning saying, "That's him right there." The sudden eruption of rounds tore through the quiet block, leaving only smoke drifting above shattered cement. That scene was only one chapter in a long chain of violent nights tied to a figure whose name carried weight in every hostile block, a man the streets eventually labeled the Hoover Killer. Westmont sits deep in unincorporated Los Angeles County, with streets running between Western Avenue and Normandy Avenue, while Century Boulevard slices the upper edge of that territory. The area once held working families building steady lives, yet shifts during the late 70s pulled the entire community into growing cycles of neighborhood tension. The Rollin 100's alliance eventually claimed dominant space across those blocks with sets like Underground Crips and Original Block Crips, tying their unity to shared lines and shared rivals. Across Vermont Avenue stood the Hoover Criminals, who previously identified as Hoover Crips before internal changes influenced their identity during the mid-'80s. The proximity between both sides created nonstop friction, since everyone moved within sight of enemy corners. Generational conflict shaped everything around those streets because older homies carried memories of early killings from the late 70s when that rivalry took its first deadly turns. Kids walking to school heard stories about drive-by strikes that happened years earlier, while adults warned them about boundaries nobody should cross without guidance. Many children learned hood lines long before understanding city maps, since each block carried its own history. Westmont families tried maintaining normal structure, yet unpredictable shootouts pushed fear into households regularly. Sirens and memorial candles eventually became familiar sights across those tight streets. Youths growing up there absorbed survival habits quickly, while studying movements of older figures who controlled their surroundings. Bon Gordon entered that world during the early 1990s when Westmont already felt hardened by decades of incidents involving both crews. The Rolling 100's carried heavy reputations, and young boys saw older members guiding daily routines through coded signals and unspoken rules. Streets like 108th Street and 111th Place produced figures who shaped local identity, and younger boys watched from porches while those respected members handled disputes or guarded corners. Toonchie grew up watching individuals who moved carefully with rifles tucked in duffel bags or pistols hidden beneath oversized shirts. He listened as neighbors explained which side of Vermont carried Hoover presence and how crossing that line brought serious consequences. Children in Westmont rarely enjoyed freedom to roam far since shootouts could erupt without warning, and everyone understood how fast situations escalated. The shift from a working-class zone to a battlefield shaped every young mind, and Toonchie internalized those lessons early. He witnessed how certain boys earned respect through quick reactions during tense moments. The environment rewarded toughness and punished hesitation, planting seeds that shaped his thinking long before his teenage years. His daily surroundings showed him which men controlled influence and which sets dictated movement across various blocks. Those early exposures created the mindset that later fueled his rise within the Rolling 100's. By his teenage years, Bon Gordon already understood the rhythm of his neighborhood since older homies raised him around constant activity involving riders and shooters preparing for nightly missions. He absorbed their mannerisms while watching them load magazines inside cramped bedrooms, lit only by street light glow drifting through cracked blinds. Those scenes taught him how power functioned within his section and who held decision-making authority. He saw how certain figures gained standing through quick retaliation after violent encounters, and those examples influenced his outlook. Teenage boys in Westmont faced limited pathways since local alliances shaped social circles and daily routines. Toonchie spent time near gatherings where Rolling 100's members shared guidance with younger boys. He soon shifted away from regular youthful habits and moved toward active participation within the set because the environment pushed him toward that direction. His reputation grew slowly at first through simple tasks like signaling movements or watching corners, while older members handled confrontations. Each task proved his reliability and gradually introduced him to deeper responsibilities. He gained early stripes through action rather than affiliation, since individuals monitored performance more than words. People noticed how he reacted without hesitation, when situations demanded fast movement. Riders returning from tense outings mentioned his focus and calm during chaotic moments, which helped strengthen his image. The Rollin 100's valued young members who demonstrated consistency, and Toonchie delivered that regularly. His confidence expanded as he learned weapon handling from seasoned shooters who trained him on routes through Hoover territory and techniques used during fast pull-ups. The style he adopted during these years involved cars rolling steady into rival blocks, with doors slightly open while shooters prepared for quick exits. Toonchie displayed strong coordination during these missions, which boosted his credibility among active members. Westmont teenagers watched those moves carefully and whispered about his potential long before his name gained public notoriety. Rumors circulated about his willingness to glide into enemy zones with little fear. His talent for hitting targets from moving vehicles marked the early stage of what neighbors later described as his signature approach. By the time he neared adulthood, people across multiple blocks recognized his presence even without hearing his full story. His rise felt steady rather than sudden, since he built it through task after task as older leaders evaluated him constantly. His development reflected the environment he grew up in, which shaped his perspective during every moment. Multiple street circles noted his emerging skills well before official documents ever recorded his actions. His journey from quiet neighborhood kid to active member occurred step by step as circumstances around Westmont fueled his transformation into a figure who soon became central to many violent chapters throughout South Los Angeles. The Dreadhead era started forming near blocks like 108th Street, where several young Rollin 100's members grew their hair long and locked, creating a look that felt recognizable instantly whenever they moved through Westmont or pulled deeper toward Vermont Avenue. Their appearance created pressure within contested zones, since rival crews viewed those long dreads as signals that active members from the 100's were sliding into range, and that expectation shaped every reaction once they appeared near Hoover pockets or hostile intersections. This crew moved with heavy energy, since their unified look carried weight among Rolling 100 sets. Like underground Crips and original block Crips, who recognized how appearance alone could shift the mood across multiple blocks. Residents noticed that people stepped back whenever the Dreadheads approached, because the presence of that crew usually meant the possibility of something serious unfolding near crowded corners or dim alleys. Within this environment, Von Gordon started transitioning into the Ton 5 identity, which later became a signature name whispered across South Los Angeles neighborhoods, including Hyde Park, Vermont Vista, and small apartment rows stretching toward Imperial Highway. His reputation grew rapidly during this period, since older homies observed how he handled tense situations with sharp awareness, while younger members admired his ability to stay calm during aggressive missions. People started calling him a top shooter after several outings where riders mentioned his timing and precision during fast strikes through Hoover zones, and that recognition traveled quickly through South Central conversations involving various allied sets and street associations. Talk circulated that Ton 5 rarely hesitated whenever high-pressure situations developed near tense boundaries, and those stories elevated his status among Rolling 100's decision-makers, who valued consistency during volatile moments. Younger homies began following his instructions, since his words carried weight within the blue flame-oriented corners forming around 111th Place and several smaller blocks where he interacted with rising members. He gained authority gradually as people realized he could outline plays effectively while understanding which routes offered safe exits after difficult missions across enemy lines. Homies respected his guidance, and his ability to greenlight movements placed him near the top of active figures, shaping Rollin 100's energy during the early 2010s. By the end of the Dreadhead run, conversations in Westmont suggested something bigger forming around Ton 5, since people felt his influence growing steadily across multiple Rollin 100 sections. That rising momentum hinted toward chaos approaching soon, and his name stood near the center of that shift long before official records documented anything. Stories surrounding Ton 5 blended real incidents with heavy rumors, since South Los Angeles operated through conversations that traveled faster than documentation. People heard verified accounts involving tense shootouts near Hoover strongholds, and also repeated tales carrying exaggerated details that shaped opinions across several neighborhoods. Prosecutors later argued that Ton 5 fired on Hoover members regularly and mistakenly hit civilians during certain outings when misidentified targets stood near parked vehicles or street corners during heated situations. Street lore included small episodes where a slow-rolling sedan appeared on 112 Hoover blocks and passengers ducked instantly once they noticed Ton 5 behind tinted glass. Those sightings pushed fear deeper since rivals recognized that specific vehicle drift and understood what usually followed moments later. Allies respected him heavily, but kept a cautious attitude around his presence since his reputation made moments unpredictable when tensions rose during crowded nights on Western Avenue or gatherings near Crenshaw Boulevard. Even friendly sets monitored conversations carefully when he entered rooms because unpredictable escalations sometimes formed whenever rivals passed too close during unexpected run-ins. His aura came from repeated actions and perceived intentions shaped by weeks of whispered reports traveling across multiple overlapping hoods. Police documents later referenced his name indirectly, while detailing violent exchanges linked to Rollin 100's feuds with Hoovers during the early and mid-2010s. These documents included statements from witnesses who described vehicles similar to ones connected to Ton 5, though confirmation often lacked clarity due to missing cooperation. People viewed him as someone capable of intense moves with little warning due to actual events and rumors reinforcing one another, until his name dominated local conversations. That energy built steadily and pushed attention toward Westmont, where activity intensified approaching the year 2015, creating an atmosphere filled with anticipation for something significant. The spark for wider escalation arrived on March 12, 2015, when Cleveland Ross Jr. stood with his father at an AutoZone parking lot along West Century Boulevard while working beneath the hood of a disabled car. And the situation appeared calm before multiple men linked to Rollin 100's crews executed a coordinated strike, using a structured formation known as the three-car method. This method involved a lead vehicle, a middle vehicle containing shooters, and a trailing vehicle covering escape lanes while preventing interference from rival drivers or passing witnesses. Testimony and investigative material later identified participants, including an older figure named Cleo, who reportedly stepped from the middle vehicle holding a .357 revolver during the sudden approach. Ross Jr. suffered fatal wounds instantly, while his father attempted helping him as chaos erupted across the lot with nearby individuals scrambling for cover among stacked equipment and parked cars. Surveillance footage captured glimpses of a red sedan speeding away shortly after shots rang out, and that imagery circulated through the LAPD as officers began piecing together fragments of the incident. The killing shook South Los Angeles heavily since Ross Jr. held affiliations with Hoover members, and his death signaled a shift suggesting Rollin 100's members were moving aggressively rather than waiting for confrontations. Community residents felt rising anxiety after this incident because the location sat near busy commercial activity visited by families consistently during afternoons. This moment represented a public demonstration of pressure from Rollin 100's members, and street circles interpreted the attack as a statement announcing heightened conflict. Talk spread quickly through Hoover territories and allied neighborhoods since people recognized the seriousness of the AutoZone strike and understood the likelihood of revenge arriving soon. Older homies predicted retaliation because long-standing patterns between Rollin 100's and Hoovers typically produced rapid response whenever major losses occurred. That expectation settled over Westmont and surrounding areas, while everyone braced for the next turn in a war that intensified steadily after Ross Jr. fell in that AutoZone parking lot. The morning KP died felt heavy across Westmont since the sun had barely risen when shots echoed near 109th Street, where Kenneth Peavy collapsed on a patch of grass outside a small house. Neighbors later recounted hearing only a few cracks before seeing bodies rush toward the yard trying to understand what happened. Word traveled instantly through Rollin 100's channels, since KP held strong standing within the 113 original block Crips, and everyone recognized how serious this loss felt for their side. Calls reached corners on 108th Street, 111th Place, and 118th Street, within minutes as homies announced that KP had taken a fatal hit during what many believed was a Hoover-targeted strike. That morning shook Toonchie deeply, since KP stood close to him and shared history across several missions linked to their ongoing tension with Hoover members. The emotional weight stretched across every Rollin 100 set as people gathered near familiar spots, sharing shock and grief while expecting retaliation to arrive soon. Conversations jumped fast as members discussed the possibility that Hoovers planned this attack carefully due to KP's influence within several 100's cliques. The incident stirred anger across Westmont and fueled talk suggesting something large might unfold due to the seriousness of this particular hit. Hours after the shooting, social media started carrying coded messages referencing a lengthy run of payback, with some accounts mentioning what later became known as 100 days, 100 nights. Rumors about an alleged challenge circulated quickly, although no verified leader openly confirmed that such a plan existed. People repeated claims about a bet involving 100 bodies falling within 100 nights, even though law enforcement could not authenticate any structured agreement. Many locals believed the idea represented street exaggeration, yet the atmosphere felt tense enough to push that rumor into widespread conversation. Despite unclear origins, the phrase 100 days, 100 nights gained traction across South Los Angeles since several shootings erupted shortly after KP's death. Cars rolling through Hoover territory faced sudden gunfire, and families traveling along Figueroa Street encountered crossfire incidents that frightened entire blocks. The Los Angeles Times eventually reported a spike in assaults, appearing tied to ongoing conflict between Rollin 100's and Hoover factions. Residents of Vermont Vista felt trapped during evening hours because shooters targeted vehicles randomly when attempting to locate rivals near 99th Street or 102nd Street. Parents kept children indoors since stray rounds struck multiple unrelated individuals who happened to occupy streets during active nights. Police increased patrols across Westmont and Hyde Park, although officers could not predict locations of upcoming strikes due to fast-moving crews traveling through scattered routes. During this period, people consistently mentioned Toonchie as one of the most active figures riding through enemy territory with heavy determination. His name surfaced often in community chatter involving attempts to strike Hoover strongholds using rapid drive-up attacks favored by certain Rollin 100 shooters. He participated in several outings reported by witnesses who described vehicles creeping slowly before fleeing rapidly after bursts of fire. The summer felt consumed by tension since South LA neighborhoods prepared daily for potential encounters involving Rollin 100's retaliation attempts following KP's killing. People whispered about Ton 5 sliding through Hoover corridors frequently while controlling plays that brought retaliation deeper into contested space. By the end of that season, his presence felt undeniable across numerous blocks due to constant sightings, linking him to circling vehicles and sudden outbreaks of gunfire. That summer marked a turning point as conflict expanded into something broader and far more destructive across Los Angeles. Another wave of grief hit Rollin 100's when Lil Flame died during early 2017, and that incident pushed Toonchie into forming a newer clique known as the Blue Flame Gang. Lil Flame held influence among younger members associated with original Block Crips, and his death struck the Hornets community hard since many viewed him as a rising figure. As people gathered to mourn him, Toonchie began shaping a smaller unit within Rollin 100's dedicated to aggressive retaliation and tight loyalty. Blue Flame members developed reputations for pursuing tension across multiple fronts involving Hoovers, Inglewood family Bloods, and the 99 Mafia Crips. Their energy stayed charged since individuals within this clique treated every outing as an opportunity to strike opposition forces with fast, coordinated attacks. Their approach relied on constant motion because they believed hesitation created vulnerability within open streets. Young members aligned under Blue Flame often carried themselves with bold confidence near hostile corridors. Ton 5 evolved during these years into someone many viewed as both strategist and motivator, since he directed movements rather than simply participating in every strike personally. Homies described him planning drive routes and outlining objectives before crews rolled into contested blocks. His guidance influenced targeting decisions and timing since he understood when certain areas carried heavy rival presence. People acknowledged his ability to structure missions while maintaining pressure across several neighborhoods simultaneously. In October 2017, another violent situation erupted when Baby Flame, a younger member connected to Rollin 100's, sat inside a vehicle traveling near South Los Angeles streets during early morning hours. A group of rivals ambushed the car and opened fire, injuring Baby Flame seriously and sending shockwaves through the 100's community. News reached Blue Flame members quickly since Baby Flame held strong connection to several individuals, including Toonchie, who viewed the attack as a direct insult against their clique. Anger spread immediately as members gathered near a home on property associated with someone known as Steve, where older figures like Hank, Keith, and Killshot assembled with Toonchie to discuss retaliation. The meeting grew intense while everyone debated the correct response to this ambush since emotions ran high and people wanted swift retribution. Toonchie contributed heavily to the planning process by shaping the layout of the retaliation strike. This planning session eventually focused on targeting a location linked to 8 Trey gangster crips near 77th Street and St. Andrews Place, since individuals believed those rivals participated in attacks against their members. Plans involved multiple cars, various shooters, and a coordinated approach similar to earlier Rolling 100's missions. The atmosphere inside that meeting highlighted the seriousness of this retaliation, since everyone understood the decisions finalized that afternoon would impact neighborhood tension significantly. As the meeting closed, participants prepared for movement toward hostile territory with intentions shaped by rising anger following Baby Flame's injury. That gathering marked a critical turning point in the evolving conflict since it set into motion actions that escalated violence further across South Los Angeles, with involvement from multiple gangs and families forced into fear due to upcoming events. The retaliation mission unfolded late on October 15, 2017, when a caravan of Rolling 100's vehicles traveled towards St. Andrews Place near 77th Street within 8 Trey gangster Crips territory. The plan involved several cars carrying shooters connected to Blue Flame circles and older figures like Hank, who directed movement from earlier strategy sessions. They positioned their vehicles carefully before rolling slowly down the block searching for targets associated with the earlier ambush on Baby Flame. 3 teenagers wearing blue clothing stood near a driveway when the caravan approached, and those teens recognized immediate danger once they spotted armed individuals stepping from the middle section of the formation. The teenagers sprinted away while gunfire erupted around them, and they managed to escape the initial burst by running through yards and ducking behind parked vehicles. The situation turned darker when 2 older men, Clifford Benton and Warner Stern, stood beneath a carport hosting a small barbecue gathering on the property. Neither man belonged to gangs, and both men supported families who lived peacefully on that street for many years. As the teens disappeared behind nearby homes, the shooters redirected attention toward Benton and Stern, who attempted seeking cover beneath the structure. Witnesses later described how Clifford begged for mercy while raising his hands before Killshot fired multiple rounds, striking his chest and arms. Warner Stern attempted moving toward a wall, yet Keith delivered shots that ended his life within seconds. Witnesses reported that the shooters walked calmly back toward their vehicles without panic or hesitation, and neighbors later said their movements appeared chillingly controlled while smoke drifted from recently fired weapons. Several people inside nearby houses watched through narrow blinds while calling for help, yet many feared stepping outside due to possible returning gunmen. The neighborhood fell into silence once the caravan sped away through side streets leading toward Florence Avenue. Law enforcement arrived rapidly due to numerous emergency calls reporting continual firing across that section of St. Andrews Place. Officers collected casings around the driveway and near the carport where the 2 older men died. The brutality shocked residents who gathered near crime scene tape, sharing disbelief that innocent elders were executed during a conflict unrelated to their lives. The funerals for Benton and Stern drew large crowds who demanded protection from violence tearing through their once stable community. Detectives began investigations immediately, and several suspects were identified within months due to witness statements and internal cooperation from certain individuals facing unrelated charges. Names, including Keith and Killshot, surfaced quickly alongside references to a supervising figure named Cleo Steele, who prosecutors later tied to planning stages. In later trials, Steele faced charges for organizing this retaliation after testimonies described meetings at Steve's property where strategies were outlined clearly. During these proceedings, multiple witnesses referenced Ton 5 being present during the planning discussions, although none placed him directly at the murder scene. Prosecutors noted that he participated in conversations regarding retaliation targets during earlier gatherings, yet evidence failed to tie him physically to St. Andrew's Place during the killings. This gap prevented charges against him, despite repeated mentions linking him to the setup phase within certain testimonies. The aftermath left long-lasting wounds throughout that neighborhood and deepened hostility among gangs operating across South Los Angeles. The St. Andrews murders highlighted how quickly retaliation spiraled into tragedies involving individuals who wanted no part of surrounding gang rivalries. Community leaders pleaded for intervention programs, yet many residents understood that older tensions between Hoovers and Rolling 100's continued pushing violence into residential areas without warning. That single morning changed numerous families forever, while further elevating the name Ton 5 within broader citywide conversations. As conflict escalated during late 2017 and early 2018, Toonchie survived a shooting that left him injured badly and kept him hospitalized temporarily, with serious wounds affecting his leg and mobility. Photos circulated privately, showing him seated with casted limbs, and people whispered that Hoover shooters nearly ended his life during that encounter. His recovery period coincided with rising tensions across Westmont, since many believe rivals targeted him specifically due to his influence within Rolling 100's. Later incidents strengthened his myth further, including a courthouse brawl between Rolling 100's members and Hoover affiliates inside the Los Angeles County Courthouse. Witnesses described punches thrown rapidly near security areas while deputies struggled separating groups, swinging on each other in crowded hallways. Footage recorded by bystanders circulated online, showing individuals believed to include Ton 5 trading blows with Hoover members during that chaotic scuffle. Another moment broadened his reputation when a group of Rollin 20's Bloods filmed themselves approaching him unknowingly during a casual drive through Western Avenue. The video caught one passenger alerting the others, once recognizing him by saying he is not a regular crab, with a tone suggesting fear rather than aggression. The car quickly changed course and avoided confrontation entirely, which impressed viewers who understood the seriousness attached to his presence. This clip spread across social media quickly and reinforced his image as someone carrying strong respect from enemies and neutrals. Ton 5 also provoked rivals by stepping into zones linked to Inglewood family Bloods, taking photos near known blocks like Crenshaw and Hardy Street during periods of heightened tension. These images circulated through Instagram pages associated with Westmont members, fueling his legend even further as people questioned how he entered active hostile areas so confidently. Rivals interpreted these actions as taunts, while allies viewed them as displays of boldness and leadership during uncertain moments. His name traveled long distances due to this mythology, and eventually his music career expanded his visibility even more. Tracks like Not a Regular Crab and Dead Ops featured lyrics referencing violent encounters, retaliation missions, and coded messages understood by people familiar with ongoing gang politics. He collaborated with artists like Bino Rideau and produced music videos filmed within Rolling 100's neighborhoods, helping merge his street reputation with a growing artistic identity. Listeners from various locations studied his lyrics, searching for hidden meanings related to conflicts involving Hoovers, 8-Trade Gangster Crips, and other LA crews. His music intensified his mystique because people recognized he referenced real scenarios without directly naming every detail. Interviews later showed him embracing the King Op title proudly, explaining that enemies acknowledged his presence whether through fear or respect. Through these intertwined experiences, his story grew beyond simple neighborhood influence into a broader myth shared across Los Angeles. People referenced him during conversations about rising gang tensions and described him as someone who shaped several critical years in South Central. His survival, confrontations, and music fed that legend continuously while keeping his name in circulation, even during periods when his physical presence remained quieter. Ton 5 faced a gun arrest in 2017, yet the case collapsed quickly once prosecutors dismissed weak evidence tied to that incident. Months later, an Inglewood assault brought 4 felony charges that shifted into a no-contest plea for assault with a deadly weapon. Another case involving attempted murder reduced into a firearm conviction after negotiations removed the heaviest counts from his record. These outcomes helped him avoid long terms many expected within that violent environment. Detectives still study his movements carefully, since his name appears within numerous files circulating through Los Angeles County offices. He strengthens his King Op persona through interviews, face tattoos pointed at rivals, and constant social media posts drawing attention. His story sits between myth and reality while he remains active within a city shaped by ongoing conflict and constant tension.